Rebecca gave me a better introduction than I could have done. So I'm a senior here at Cornell College, and yeah, I'm the Skinner International Fellow in American Diplomacy, and this past summer I went and worked at the U.S. Embassy in Buenos Aires, Argentina. So a little bit about the application process for this. I applied in October to get my initial security clearance in November, but I did not get my final security clearance until April, and then I flew out in June to Argentina. I worked with the Consular Bureau of the Department of State in the Division of American Citizen Services, or ACS, because the government abbreviates everything. So I worked there for 2.5 months, and I worked with ACS, both ACS and visa departments, and ACS essentially works to help American citizens while you're abroad. So they help provide passports to people, especially if they're lost while they're abroad. We help with birth and death certificates. The joke is that ACS has you covered from cradle to grave. And we also provide tons of other services to American citizens abroad, which I will talk to you about. Essentially what I was doing, I did a lot of office work. I worked with my really wonderful supervisor, Holly Wilkerson. I ended up also doing visa projects because the visa intern did not get her security clearance in time, so I ended up working in both departments. I helped update the technology and the accessibility of the department. I helped coordinate on high-level visits with the Department of State. I assisted with ACS cases and trips, and I also worked in different bureaus and sections across the embassy. So for one of my biggest projects was working to help coordinate the 4th of July party. Every year all over the world, embassies host parties for the 4th of July, and this year was the Argentine embassy's biggest year. We had over 2,000 guests come, and my job was essentially to work with these companies to acquire funding and then to get their logos, and we made a giant 14-foot tall banner with all these different logos on it. So I got here, my first day they said, okay, you're going to help us get the money to fund this, and I was like, okay. But it was a really, really great experience. The bane of my existence while I was working in Argentina was the Four Winds Interactive System. It was this technology system that ran all the display systems in the waiting room. And I had to learn how the software worked and then figure out how to update it, which I did. I also worked on the ACS and visa websites. I helped update them, and also I translated the English to Spanish for many of the web pages. And I also helped run a webinar of our community liaison volunteers, who are volunteers from the embassy who work all across the country. I helped organize a training for them online. One of the very cool things I did was I worked an ACS case with Abdel. An American citizen was injured, and then he died while he was abroad. And so I went to the hospital with Abdel and then the person's family. We had to be the people to call the family, and then we had to help ship his body back to the States and coordinate with the police department as well. So that was a very interesting case. And I also helped work, and I went on a prison visit with the human rights political officer, in which we went to 3 different prisons, and we visited 13 American citizens who were arrested while in Argentina from charges ranging from tax evasion to murder. And so we got to meet all these different people and check their human rights to see if there were any human rights abuses being enacted, and then we had to file a report back to DC. Two of the very interesting things that happened was I met the Second Lady of the United States, Dr. Jill Biden, and also Secretary of State John Kerry. Dr. Jill Biden was only in Buenos Aires for one night, and I helped work on the event that she came and gave a speech, and we all at the embassy came and watched. But Secretary of State John Kerry, he was in Argentina for about 36 hours, but he did not notify us that he was coming until a week beforehand. And so we had this huge, huge flurry to get everything organized. And so I helped coordinate the baggage team, and I helped get his baggage from the airport to his hotel. I helped coordinate the meet and greet event where I got this photo taken. And then the funny story about how I actually met him was that the elevator in the embassy was really rickety and broken. It would take 2 minutes to call it every time. So when he was coming to the embassy, I was the person who had to stand and hold the elevator for like 5 minutes. So I stood with one foot in and one foot out, and so that when Secretary Kerry arrived, he did not have to wait for the elevator. In terms of professional growth, I learned so much. I had had internships before, but never in this kind of professional environment. I had to learn to ask for opportunities and how to I had to go to people and be like, hi, what do you need me to do? I had to learn how to communicate, and communicating in government, from writing good emails to just interpersonal communication, is very complicated, and I learned how to do that. I also learned how the Department of State interacts with the rest of the world. It was very interesting, like when you're talking to people and you're like, oh, I work at the embassy, and of course I speak Spanish, but not enough to fully articulate. And so the first question everyone asks is, oh, can you get me a visa? But you had to learn I got to learn how the Department of State interacts with the globe. We also had to learn how to be creative. The government's a little bit of a bureaucracy, and we had to find creative solutions to work around the system oftentimes. And I also got to work on some very cool cases and with some very cool visitors. In terms of personal growth, this was the first time I had lived away from either home or Cornell. So not only did I have to feed myself for 3 months, that was interesting, but I was also living in a big city. And I got to live with the other interns, so we were all banded together, but I had to learn how to explore on my own, and I ended up having a very long bucket list of all the things I wanted to do before I left, and I got everything but one thing done. It was like 50 things, so I was proud of that. But more importantly, my roommate always talked about this work-life balance, and so I learned how to achieve this work-life balance of going to work and then also being able to explore when I was out of work. The impact of my internship, so I went into this wanting to join the U.S. Foreign Service, and I still want to do that, but that's probably pushed back 10 or 15 years later than I had anticipated beforehand. I still want to go to grad school, but I don't know in what yet, and so I am going to take a couple years off to probably do something with AmeriCorps, hopefully. And then I also have some really great contacts from this opportunity to contact when I do end up going to grad school. And I had some really great networking experiences. And so, but then when I do join the Foreign Service, I know that I want to work in the political section, but I also know there's so many more projects I can work on. Thank you.